It's not just about computers, it's not just about teaching and learning, it's not just about the infrastructure, it's about all of these things being brought together. Because it's not simply a case of you popping down the hall there to buy 30 laptops and giving them to a teacher and everything's going to be fine. Did exactly the same thing in another school and it was terrible. And it's come over time and worked in 4 or 5 schools that context is key. They see the benefits, they like using it, but they don't necessarily have that passion and that level of expertise that comes with that passion. We've got to find a way of breaking through. And that was kind of part of the way we went about things in our school. The EPC, the ACC EPC. And the first time you could get a laptop, a functioning laptop, for under £200. And that kind of got us thinking that if we could do that, and we talked to the Learning Foundation, then it was possible to offer a machine to parents, either free of charge or on a joint ownership. Even cheaper now, 129. I think you can even go around stores and find a similar laptop for £100. Internet at home and trying to get them both to work was problematic, which is why this year we've gone over to a Windows product, and it's actually cheaper. It's a hard drive, so slightly less robust because obviously it has moving parts. You can put your own software on, which is great. You're going to have problems, but until you actually run it live, you don't know what those problems are going to be. And we're still now, saying our second year, ironing out some of those little issues with occasional laptops just dropping off the network for no apparent reason and then them to go back up again. About £1,500 it cost us in the end, but that works much better. It borrows signal from other points around the school. I'm not a technical person, but it works. So expect that. Expect if you're going to think of doing is to factor those sorts of things in. There's 3 elements to it: common freeware tools, online tools, and learning platform. As far as common freeware tools, this is something that really excites me, and that's where we're really headed as a school. It's the online tools. You might have heard of the data cloud. The CDs and software that you own a physical CD of are becoming a thing of the past, and it's something that we're really aiming as a school to do to try and make a quick piece of software. If you've not seen it, go and have a look at it, because for me it is the way ahead as far as with data. How you share documents really can only be done through a learning platform or something similar. You can try and do it over a school network, but then what if the children aren't at school? And I'm sorry, they're not good enough, as far as I'm concerned. They're okay, but I compare them to some things like Google Docs or even Facebook, MySpace. They're easy. Those things are easy. They work straight away, every time. The problem we have with our learning platform and what I hear other learning platforms is they don't always work. They're not always intuitive. There's too many clicks to get to where you need to go to.
This is how to use root vectors. For example, 56 times 26. You split it up by splitting 50 and 6, and 20 and 6. So you do 50 times 20 is 1,000, and 50.
You get the idea. How good is that? But actually, it's utterly terrifying when you actually start teaching that way. Terrifying and exhilarating, I should say. I'll give you an example. I was teaching a science lesson last year. I teach Year 6 science to give my deputies in this time. And we were doing adaptation and classification of animals. And I was saying, yes, and a crocodile, that's a reptile, and this child, Leon, who was one of our ABD children actually, started looking a bit confused, a little bit cross, and he opened his laptop and started tapping away. And I said, Leon, what are you doing? I'm talking. And he said, well, you said a crocodile was a reptile. I think it's an amphibian. Okay, close thing. And I thought, how dare you learn without me? And then I thought, actually, that's exactly what I want the children to do. I want the children to have the skills to be able to question, find things out for themselves. But what we noticed was that suddenly changes things quite significantly. No longer are the children, you no longer are the font of all knowledge. You and your whiteboard at the front, imparting, all of this knowledge of the world to these empty vessels. Suddenly these empty vessels have the knowledge of the world sat at their desk, and they can check if they think you're wrong. And they will question you more. And suddenly that balance of power is shifted towards the learner a little bit. And the role of the teacher starts to change as well. Not in all cases, but we're starting to see, particularly in humanities and things like that, where the children want to find things out. And it's a bit like taking a bowl of tadpoles and emptying them into a swimming pool, and they go in every different direction. And that's a bit what happens when you try and teach something with this technology, because you've got the children who can find things out like that. You're talking about Henry VIII's first wife 1 minute, and they're off. You know, they've got the information in front of them, and they're taking it in all sorts of different places. And it's actually teaching the children how to deal with that, and also as a teacher, how you cope with that. Thinking about, I'm trying to put it in terms of the ECM agenda, the three main parts we focused on this year and last year, and there's much more to this, and I'll come on to that, are e-safety, study skills, and curriculum remodelling. And they kind of fit into the stay safe, enjoy and achieve economic well-being areas. E-safety, I talked about that a little bit at the beginning. I say, utterly terrified me at the thought of children taking laptops home. That teachers have historically or methodically done teach study skills on the internet. Some schools may have done their own thing, but nationally it's not been something that's been pushed at a national level. How to select appropriate sources of information. You know, again, you've got this child finding out about Henry VIII. Google.com, first one you get up is Martin Luther King, a biography through history or something I think it's called. It looks brilliant, it's got information for students, all these sort of things, and it's posted by Stormfront, which is a Nazi organisation in America. But it looks fantastic. To 9-year-olds, how are they supposed to know that that's not true? So getting them to cross-reference, to consider bias and misleading information, and that's a very hard thing to do. How do you teach a child when they're being manipulated in a digital world? It's something adults struggle with, but it's something that we need to teach our children younger and younger to do. I think we've been successful with those first 4. The next 2 are still working, which is why they're in red. How to manage large amounts of information. And that's something that becomes a huge problem. It's easy to manage when you've got one book between 2 children. Turn to page 6. There's a page on Anne Boleyn. No problem. How do you then... It's when you cope with 6 million pages on Anne Boleyn. And the problem is, you can waste an awful lot of time. Children do waste an awful lot of time just clicking around, not really knowing where to go. It's just they just don't know how to filter that much information. It's getting the children to be much more disciplined about how they select information, and sometimes closing their laptop and getting the book, because the book's got the information there a lot quicker. How to synthesise information to create new understanding. I think in the next 5 to 10 years, no, 5 years, in fact it's already there in the Rose Report, children being able to synthesise and make sense of information is a skill which we've got to teach, and teach a lot better than we are now. I think in best schools we're probably teaching it a little bit. I suspect the vast majority of schools are not teaching it at all, because teachers haven't quite got their heads around it yet. How to develop visual and media literacy. Again, there's still a slight feeling, I think, in our school that work with video and work with audio is a little bit soft and a little bit, it's a bit fluffy, and things that the IT teachers do. And, it's all very nice and good, but it's not real work. But actually, 90% of what children see is through those digital media as far as information is imparted to them. And actually getting children to go into much more depth, and actually having those tools at their fingertips, and having that knowledge at their fingertips by a digital device really helps them get deeper and deeper into the subject and develop a greater understanding. Children are active, and those EBD children, I have to say the EBD boys, who before would sit at the back and just not get engaged, because they have the power, if you like, with this machine in front of them to be able to search themselves. That seems to connect with a lot of them. They have a very good awareness of e-safety. Ask any of our children how to stay safe on the internet and they'll tell you. I suspect no school does. I think it's worth doing. I suspect that in 5 years every child in the country will have one of these, because I think that's the way it's going. There are irritations and things that don't work, and so if you expect them to be able to do it and to be all plain sailing, it won't be. I still think it's worth doing. The technical side is a pain in the backside. Getting things to work, especially if they're all, if you're buying the cheap only things. So again, you have to spend time and think about how that's going to work, and accept that you're going to have a few bumps along the road. I sat and thought, gosh, there's been lots of things that haven't worked. Was it worth it? And I've concluded, yes, it is worth it. And it's worth it because unless we do it badly, we'll never learn to do it well.